There's a lesson that keeps resurfacing every time you dig into Depression-era survival. When money disappears, creativity explodes. Millions of families suddenly had to make do without buying anything new, and that included knives. A good blade was essential for farm work, cooking, repairs, trapping, gardening, and general survival. But many households simply couldn't afford one or couldn't replace one once it dulled or snapped. Out of that pressure came one of the most brilliant, overlooked hacks of the entire era, the improvised razor-edge tool made from steel scraps, worn-out tools, and repurposed farm metal. For many rural families, this hack didn't just fill in for a missing knife. It outperformed factory blades for certain tasks and lasted longer with almost no maintenance. For backyard wisdom today, this story isn't just historical curiosity. It's a reminder that the strongest survival systems come from necessity, not equipment catalogues. And when you understand this method, you gain a backup cutting tool that's incredibly dependable in emergencies. The Depression-era blade hack emerged because homes needed a cutting tool they could make instantly from available steel. A typical Depression-era household didn't have the luxury of ordering a new tool or driving to a hardware store. What they did have was a graveyard of metal left behind from wagons, farm machinery, coal stoves, and hand tools that had worn out but never thrown away. Steel was valuable, and nobody wasted it. Farmers quickly discovered that many broken components, handsaw blades, hay rake tines, old chisels, stove springs, carriage hardware, contained high-carbon steel, perfect for making extremely sharp, thin cutting tools. The key insight wasn't just using scrap metal, it was choosing metal that already had the right hardness. Hard enough to keep an edge, soft enough to shape with hand tools. That meant no complex forging, no heat treatment, and no specialized equipment. With a file, a hammer, and a sturdy surface, people turned discarded metal into blades that sliced meat, shaved wood, skinned animals, and carved tools. The most legendary of these was the improvised draw blade made from a broken handsaw. This simple design cut cleaner than many mass-produced knives of the era. The handsaw blade conversion became the most trusted version because it sharpened easily and held a razor edge. Broken handsaws were everywhere during the 1930s. When teeth wore down or snapped, the whole saw became junk metal in the eyes of the factories. But rural families saw them as treasure. Old saw steel is thin, flexible, high in carbon, and extremely easy to sharpen. This made it ideal for turning into everything from paring knives to skinning tools to craft blades. To make one, people cut a section of saw steel using snips, hammered it flat if needed, and formed a gentle curve or straight profile depending on the intended task. The brilliance of saw steel lies in how it behaves under a file. A few minutes of filing produces a shaving edge. A few more minutes produces a razor. This meant even a child could sharpen the tool without fear of ruining it. But what really made the improvised saw blade knife outperform some traditional knives was its slicing performance. Because the steel was thinner than most manufactured blades, it glided through food, hide, rope, or plant fibre with very little resistance. This thin geometry, something knife makers today charge premium prices for, was standard in almost every Depression-era homemade blade. People refined this hack further by creating multi-purpose cutting tools with simple modifications. The saw blade method wasn't the only version, Old-timers learned quickly that hay-rake tines, coal shovel edges, and broken chisels each had useful properties. Hay tines produced strong, narrow carving blades. Chisels made thick, reliable utility knives. Even cracked kitchen knives were reshaped into new profiles, giving them years more service. One particularly effective Depression-era trick was turning the metal band from a broken wagon wheel hub into a curved slicing tool. The band was already hardened and had the right arc for draw cutting. People sharpened the inside curve and used it for everything from meat processing to shaping wood. It gave them the leverage of a two-handed draw knife with none of the cost. This simple modification produced blades far more powerful than simple pocket knives and offered incredible precision. For survivalists today, this matters because the principle remains the same. The best emergency blade is one you can make from common scrap without high heat or specialized skills. The practicality of this hack becomes clear when you apply it in the field. Try converting a piece of scrap metal yourself, and you'll see why this depression technique deserves to be preserved. Start with an old handsaw segment or any thin, springy steel. Lay it flat on a stump or anvil surface and check for bends. A few light taps with a hammer will flatten it. If you need a handle, wrap the last inch of the blade in cordage or carve 2 thin wood scales, drilling small holes for nails or wire. Sharpening is straightforward. Hold the edge at a consistent angle and work a mill file along it until it forms a burr. Flip, repeat, and polish the edge with a stone. You've just created a razor that handles food prep, carving, kindling curls, or skinning better than many modern multi-tools. You can also create a two-hand draw blade for woodworking or hide processing by leaving both ends wide enough to grip. The curved blade variant cuts branches, shapes, tent stakes, trims saplings, and performs feathering strokes beautifully. Everything about the Depression-era hack is quick, low-risk, and resourceful. This forgotten approach still has a place in a modern survival kit because it guarantees a blade even when gear fails. Knives break, rust, get misplaced, or dull at the wrong time. Ferrorods get lost. Lighters die. The Depression taught families that tools must be repairable or replaceable using materials already on hand. That mindset is exactly what survivalists try to cultivate today. If you can turn scrap steel into a cutting tool within an hour, you're never without a blade. This alone makes the technique invaluable for bushcraft, off-grid living, or emergency disaster scenarios. And it ties you directly to the resourcefulness of past generations who got by with a fraction of the tools we take for granted now. If you want more historically grounded fieldcraft and practical survival knowledge, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this guide so others can rediscover the ingenuity our ancestors used every single day.